On a recent trip to Washington, D.C., I was introduced to a group of journalists. Everyone was informally gathered for a small barbecue, and it wasn't long before we started chatting about work and they found out what I do for a living. One of them made a joke that he was glad that guns were being blamed for Newtown because he was an avid Call of Duty player, and he was terribly afraid that the feds were going to come after his video games. Hilarious. He went on to say, in all seriousness, they're never going to come after the guns in this country. And then all the other journalists around him nodded in agreement. This statement was particularly unsettling because these journalists are the very people who write pieces for major publications, and they shape our worldview, and they are completely wrong. Whether they're simply overlooking the facts out of negligence or actually believe what they're saying, this incredibly inaccurate perception has got to be corrected. To this journalist and to others who hold the same belief, I have a few thoughts for you. Number one, guns will never be taken away in the United States. Seriously, dude? You live in the District of Columbia, one of the most difficult areas in the country to obtain a firearm permit, where even members of the military who are trained on firearms are routinely denied access to their Second Amendment rights. And even after the Supreme Court ruled in the Heller case that it was illegal for firearm ownership to be prohibited, the DC system has still made it unreasonably difficult to actually obtain one. Oh, and P.S., you also happen to have one of the highest violent crime rates in the entire country. Since you're a journalist, I'm sure you're fond of statistics. Do you pay any attention to how ineffective gun control is in DC and Chicago? The bodies are piling up, and when there are areas of town where even the police department refuses to go for their own personal safety, rightly so, I might add, you've got a problem on your hands. Maybe you believe that if guns were banned altogether from the United States, we'd be good to go, no more violence. Yeah, because banning marijuana has really kept the Mexican cartels from bringing that in. See how this doesn't make a lot of sense? And finally, of course, you're right. The government wouldn't possibly come for our guns, and they would never violate our Second Amendment rights, just like they would never violate our First Amendment, freedom of the press, until, as we recently learned, they did just that. And the IRS would certainly never persecute anyone who differed politically from the current administration until they did. Listen, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you should be paying attention to this stuff. Because at some point, someone you disagree with is going to be in office, and you will value these freedoms more than ever. So please, reporters, before you flippantly dismiss the point of view of tens of millions of Americans, educate yourself and your readers on firearms, violent crime, and above all, the Second Amendment.